Hello and welcome to this how-to video by Barco Residential. Within this video we want to have a look at some of the troubleshooting settings we can take advantage of within the Prospector web interface. The first thing we'll look at is the overview page, within which, under the projector heading, we can see a number of different things about the projector. For example, its model number, its serial number and its firmware revision. These are all useful information for our support team when troubleshooting. This particular projector is a Barco CinemaScope, which doesn't use a colour wheel, but in the case of our Loki, Medea and Boulder units, this will also show what colour wheel is installed, which can also be useful information. To the right of this, we can see environmental information, which shows us the intake temperature of the projector, the humidity of the environment it's installed within, the air pressure, and the power rating. With the temperature, we can change the unit of measure from centigrade to Fahrenheit by clicking on the Settings menu and then the Units menu. Another useful window here is this window at the top, which tells us about the incoming video signal. Here I can see that the HDMI input is selected and we've got an incoming video signal. By clicking on Preview, I can go to the Preview menu, also located under the Input menu. I can then change the delay of the video signal from 5 seconds to 1 second. And as I change the Kaleidoscope menu, I'll see that happening live on screen. This can be incredibly useful because it allows me to establish that the customer definitely should be receiving, or more to the point, is receiving, a video signal to the projector. But in this case, they phoned up to complain there's no output. So let's go back to the overview page. It could be something really simple, such as the shutter is in the closed position as opposed to the open position. However, in this case, we can very clearly see the illumination system is turned off, suggesting that perhaps the projector hasn't received the correct power on command from the control system. This is something easily addressed. Another menu that can be useful, although may not always appear so at first sight, is the lens menu. Within this menu, we can see the lens installed within the projector, in this case an EN63. This can be useful because on occasion we do get calls from customers stating that the lens installed within the projector isn't filling the screen. This allows us to double check the throw ratio compared to the screen size to ensure that the correct lens was specified in the first place. If from there it was, we can further investigate to try and establish why that lens isn't filling the screen. Another useful menu, which we use frequently, is under the Input menu and then the Connectors settings. From here, we can choose the relevant input. In almost all cases in the residential market, it will be the HDMI input. Here we can see a number of connector settings, which can be incredibly useful for fault finding. For example, we can see here the video signal we're receiving and the colour primaries is Rec 709, suggesting that we're seeing SDR content. We know this is the case as we've already seen the Kaleidoscope is in the user interface. I also know the Kaleidoscope's in the user interface because the content type I'm receiving is graphics. This was covered in one of my cropping videos. I can also see that the Kaleidoscope is outputting and the projector is receiving 2.37 to 1 aspect ratio. So let's pause the video here very quickly whilst I change the video content type and we'll see how some of the settings change. I've now altered our content to display content from the Kaleidoscope, which is outputting in HDR, the movie's Ready Player One. We can tell it's HDR because the colour space and colour primaries state Rec 2020. I also know because the mastering luminance is 4000, which will only appear when we're watching HDR content. This can display 1000, 2000 or 4000 depending on how HDR content was mastered. The aspect ratio hasn't changed because the content's CinemaScope aspect ratio, but we can see the content type has changed from graphics to cinema as we're now displaying movie content. Let's have a look at one more input change to see how we can see some faults within the input signal. I've now swapped our source component from a kaleidoscope strato to an Apple TV, and instantly something strikes me as strange. The mastering luminance on the video signal is 250, which I know is a value which shouldn't be present within the video signal path. SDR content would have a value of -1, and HDR content will have a minimum mastering luminance value of 1000. Apple TVs output 250 when forced to output HDR content, and this is because SDR content is being forced to HDR incorrectly. Therefore, I know I need to change some settings within the Apple TV, and we'll have a video coming out on this very soon. We also have a guide available on mybarco.com suggesting the settings you need to change. I can also tell it's incorrect because the colour primaries and colour space are showing Rec 2020, despite me being in the Apple TV menu, so these should read Rec 709. I can also note that the content aspect ratio and content type have changed. Aspect ratio to 16:9 in accordance with the menu, and content type being unknown because I'm no longer using the Kaleidoscope movie player. Another thing to note is that this mastering luminance level can be incorrectly displayed as a result of other components within the video chain, such as HDMI cables, audio processors, or video matrices not passing through the HDR video signal correctly. Likewise, you can have the case where you're sending the projector what you believe to be an HDR signal, but what you receive here is -1, denoting that the projector isn't receiving all of the information from the source component that it should be. From there, we know we need to do some further troubleshooting within the video chain to rectify the issue. This could be switching out HDMI cables, video processors, or simply checking all of the settings within the video components. The notification menu, located under the installation menu within Prospector, is another useful window that allows us to see what's happening within the projector. We can see a number of things here, including all of the power cycles, firmware updates, the serial number of the projector, input changes, amongst other things. We can also see things such as the projector shutting down because of humidity or temperature issues. We can filter the information shown from information, caution warnings, warnings, or error messages. Most importantly from this page, by clicking on the download arrow in the right hand side, we can download a log to our desktop, which we can then send to a service engineer for review. One final troubleshooting tip I'd like to share with you is the ability to reboot the projector, whether remotely from site or if the projector is in an awkward installation where you may need to pull the power cord. This is an alternative way of doing it. First and foremost, you must be logged in as a power user. As a Barco installer, you should know the password for this. We then need to access the JOSN RPC console. This is available on almost every page within Prospector by clicking on the circle at the bottom and then the down arrow of this blue menu. You then need to enter the following command. Once you hit the enter button, the projector will slowly power down, reboot, load its operating system, and power up into the ready mode. The whole process should take approximately 2 to 3 minutes. You will then need to turn the illumination system back on. Hopefully you found this video useful. We look forward to seeing you on our next.